All right, guys, movie review time. Just got back from seeing a screening of Roadhouse, the remake, and I was not impressed. Let die. Now you see this right here. This is a classic. Anytime the 1989 original movie comes on, I watch it. And I watch it. Patrick Swayze is my guy. From a lot of you might know him from Ghost. From this movie. I think he was in Flashdance. But to me, this was an iconic role for him because this is just one of my all-time favorite movies. The remake, on the other hand, it has its pros and it has its cons. Now, I guess this is an essential remake, so a lot of this kind of took part from the original story. They just kind of changed up a lot of things, like the location, a little bit of the main character, Jake Gyllenhaal's background. In this story, it's very kind of all over the place, but in this rendition of the story, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Dalton, a basically former UFC fighter, and you never really understand why he's a former UFC fighter, but people are scared to fight him for certain things, not only because a UFC fighter or something he did in the ring, which, pretty easy to kind of guess what he did. And so he's kind of disgraced and he's kind of bouncing around from place to place trying to find, I guess, his calling. And Frankie, and as you can see, Jessica Williams, Frankie right here in the middle, she hires Dalton to come down to her establishment in the Keys of Florida because she's having some problems with the local people down there, and they keep roughing up the bar. So she hires Jake Gyllenhaal to come in there. She hires Dalton to come in there to basically clean up the place. He comes down, basically kicks ass, take names, but things are a little different than what they seem because Ben Brandt over here, played by Billy Magnuson, is a true dickhead in this movie. He is kind of the quintessential villain, and what he's trying to basically take over, secretly take over this bar, so he can basically develop land, and in order to get her out. Frankie, who owns the restaurant, who owns the bar, he basically tries to cause a lot of trouble to kind of escort her out of the property so he can buy it and build whatever monstrosity he wants to build. And standing in his way is Dalton, who basically is kicking ass and taking names of everyone. I mean, that's a long story short, but this movie, it just, I will say the plot was all over the place. Like, the original story, I think, was just so true to essence. Like, it was straight to the point. Like, Patrick Swayze, Casey Dalton came in town, and within, the first kind of 20, 30 minutes, you knew what was going on. You knew who the bad guy was. Now, this was a bad guy. Brad Wesley from the 1989, that he was a dick. And the only thing that I hated about this new villain was that he was basically son of the main quote unquote, I guess, shot caller, if you will, who actually ended up being in prison. So he was just basically a rich daddy's kid who basically had a whole bunch of henchmen trying to take over and do big things in such a little person. And of course, the shining light of the story was Conor McGregor. And Conor McGregor played Knox, which damn near played himself. Now, the thing that I didn't like about, there was pros and cons. He was his crazy self, but it's they almost made him to be almost like a Bond, cheesy villain. He was already short, and he was driving cars and wrecking them for no reason, and he was just very over the top, kind of like the notorious personality as we know him from the UFC. If you do not know Conor McGregor, but the one thing I will say is that when Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal had these fight scenes, they were intense. The action in this movie was really good. It's just, to me, the story kind of lacked. It wasn't as cohesive as the original, obviously 1989 one. I hate to keep comparing it, but it just kind of jumped all over the place, and you kind of didn't really almost know the full ending plot. You didn't really know why Connor and why Jake Gyllenhaal Dalton is the way he is until the very almost last 20 minutes of the movie, 30 minutes of the movie. You kind of figure out why he got disgraced and why. But the thing that I did like about him, the thing I did like about Jake Gyllenhaal's rendition of, though, he was a very cool individual, and they were pissing him off through the whole movie, and he was trying to remain calm. He was still kicking everybody's ass. Then it got to a scene where he just had enough, and he just kind of really went in, and like he went in like he was kicking everybody's ass. And Conor McGregor and him, when they got into this fight scene, this movie was a darker rendition of the original, but it was very, very, very dark. Like I said, I have a mixed review of this. Like I'm not gonna say I wasn't a fan, but it's just like if I had never seen the original, then I probably would like this movie. It just, to me, the cohesiveness of the plot, it just kind of extended a little too far along, and this movie almost was 2 hours, and it just like they could have chopped it down to like 1:30. It just like there are some scenes in the movie that they really didn't need, but hands down, like I said, I'd give it like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. Not awful, but not great. Jake Gyllenhaal is such a good actor. Like you like to think that he can kind of make any role work, and he, in some odds, did. It's just that, like I said, to me, the story, it kind of bounced all over the place. It really wasn't as cohesive as they thought it probably was. But all in all, the movie comes out actually this Thursday, tomorrow. And most people don't realize, they say it comes out Friday, but it comes out, you can watch this on Amazon tomorrow at like 8 p.m. That's when they usually come on. So, like I said, I want you guys to watch this and then drop some comments down when you do see it tomorrow, or if you do see it Friday. All right, guys, how's you guys later?